In yesterday's video, I should have expanded a little about those inappropriate behaviours without going into gory or unsavoury detail. What I will say is that I've never been violent towards any man, woman, child, pet or wild animal. I've never sexually harmed any man, woman, child, pet or wild animal. And I've never downloaded illegal videos showing sexual violence or any other harm towards a man, woman, child, pet or wild animal, and would never want to. What I may have done to inanimate objects will remain a secret between myself and that inanimate object. A branch of the police, or perhaps an intelligence agency, has, without doubt, made something public about me, and I will find out what that is, because it's this revenge porn used by the state that will prove the rest of my targeting, the covert spying, my being tracked, and various harassments within the flat and away from the flat. As for today's video, it will show the opposite of the very complimentary comment I received yesterday, seen in yesterday's upload. I want to show not just my nanoscopic number of viewers, but the world what those of us targeted are up against. Lost Cowboy left the comment yesterday and stated how this targeting program had piqued an interest. Despite the many videos that could have seen Lost Cowboy lose interest and only believe such a program was real, LC persevered with this very important subject, which remains a conspiracy, and by doing so formed eventually the opinion this targeting program is real, a conclusion which is of course correct. Using critical thinking, understanding the role of disinformation, and how those affected by mental illness might attach themselves to this particular echo chamber, and also seeing some of the evidence, scant as it may be, this layperson, albeit one blessed with a working brain, saw through the miasma of smoke and mirrors and understands people such as myself are being targeted. Now let's take a look at Rob Warner, a guy who one would have thought would be capable of doing the same, given his very successful YouTube channel, CrimeBodge. As you can see, Mr. Bodge has over 250,000 subscribers. His channel is dedicated to exposing policemen and women who might not be upholding the law quite as they're supposed to, and also offers legal help on criminal and civil law. All well and good. Before I continue with CrimeBodge, I'll just say that I've watched some other YouTube channels which usually highlight police and security guards reacting sometimes in an aggressive manner, but in many instances such channels are blatantly baiting the cops and guards to get a reaction. Exposing police corruption, the abuse of their powers, is necessary, and I applaud all those that continue to whistleblow and highlight innocent victims being mistreated, but baiting cops and guards is not the way to do this. Back to CrimeBodge. Believing Dan was a guy that could potentially help given his huge audience, I contacted him. This was back in 2019, and here's the email correspondence. For those people who remember the boy band group E17 from the 1990s, life and the British tabloids haven't been too kind to Brian Harvey, who was the lead singer of that successful band. Brian has a YouTube channel which is also dedicated to trying to expose wrongdoings by a number of, as he sees them, dodgy characters. And if I'm honest, his story and those involved is a convoluted one, so you'll need your head screwed on properly and will need to set aside quite a number of hours to learn about the wrongs that have been done and are still being done to him, and silence definitely playing its part in any cover-up. Brian is smart and has acquired a wealth of evidence. I suppose the most famous or infamous of those involved in wrecking his life is Rupert Murdoch. Brian does see himself as being targeted, but not in the same way as myself and others like me on the receiving end of these covert operations. But what we do have in common is being ignored by all. And when we're not being ignored, we're being purposely and erroneously labelled as having a form of mental illness. Brian has admitted to being bipolar and can switch from being calm to extremely angry faster than you can say Ian Puddick. But he's no mug, he's smart and he's funny, and he's more switched on about how our system will close ranks than most, and it is highly frustrating to know that you're being rendered impotent by the state. I do hope Brian will win his fight eventually. Anyway, I did notice that he too is not a big fan of CrimeBodge.